In 2002, Liseberg was looking to add a new wooden coaster, and they were presented with a rare opportunity. Intamin had just come out with a prefabricated wooden coaster, the track being laser cut in a factory, delivered to the park to be easily put together. This would be known as BALDER, one of just 4 Intamin prefabricated wooden coasters that were ever built, and on its 20th anniversary, I was able to get out and ride it. Over the course of 2 days, I got 22 rides, and overall, I was impressed, but it wasn't by any means a perfect ride. These are 5 things to love about BALDER, and a few to hate. When you look at BALDER, you may understand that it's the same make and model as El Toro, but it's obviously not El Toro. It's about half the size, it doesn't have that long sprawling layout, it's very compact, but we all know that a good coaster doesn't have to be a big coaster. One thing is the same, and that's the first thing to love, the trains. These have 5 cars, 3 rows each, so they seat 30 per train. That's 1 car shorter than El Toro, so it doesn't have the same width, but it's still a long train, and that's a good thing. It also has the same lap bars. I've always been a fan of El Toro's lap bars, and BALDER is no different. It's easy not to get stapled. It's easy to keep the bar up during the ride. I had a big problem with the lap bar on Helix, but no problem on BALDER. After you leave the station, you get to the next thing to love, the lift hill. I honestly thought this was a cable lift, but no, it's just a chain. This is the quietest lift hill ever. You compare that to Air Force One or Steel Vengeance. Those sound like a train wreck, but this one is silent. It whips you up the 118-foot lift hill in no time, and you make a 180-degree right turn and the ride gets started. The first drop is good, but not great. It has a twist to the right, and that gives you some nice lateral whip in the back, but there isn't much airtime there. What you do notice right off the bat is how smooth this ride is. It's a prefab, so it's going to be smoother than a normal wooden coaster, but we've seen problems with Colossus. That was the original, and it needed a retrack. El Toro has become a mess over the last few years, and apparently it's very rough since it reopened in 2023. BALDER has gotten track work also, and it's worked perfectly. It's not only the smoothest wooden coaster I've ever ridden, it's one of the smoothest coasters I've ridden period, wood or steel. I mean, I rode this 22 times in 2 days and it didn't faze me at all. Helix had a bit of a rattle and that can wear on you, but BALDER is a coaster you can lap all day. The question is, do you want to? Is it worth your time? That brings me to the next thing to love, the airtime. As part of the Coaster Crew Tour, we were treated to our own guide. This is Pontus. He's in charge of dealing with people like us. And he said when Liseberg ordered BALDER from Intamin, they asked them to pack as much airtime as possible into the layout. Intamin listened, and you can see it in the layout. It's just a lot of airtime. So my big question going in was how good the airtime will be. Sometimes a ride advertises airtime and you barely get anything. Yeah, you might pull a very slight negative G-force and they call it an airtime point. I was afraid this might be the case for BALDER. Fortunately, it wasn't. The airtime is real and there's plenty of it. This would make or break the ride, and luckily it was worthwhile. In terms of which row is best, I don't think you can go wrong anywhere. The front has airtime that's a bit more powerful, but it's quicker and less sustained. The back does a better job dragging you over the hills, so the airtime is longer even if it's not as strong. This is one of those rides where I thought maybe the middle would be the best. You can combine the power of the front with the sustainability of the back. It took me long enough, but during ERT, I marathoned this in row 8, and that delivered by far the best airtime on the train. If you make it to Liseberg, give row 8 a try and see if I'm right. The last thing to love is the tunnels. Again, thanks to Pontus, we got the story behind them, and wouldn't you know, it's the same old story. Liseberg is right in the middle of Gothenburg, and people from the surrounding area were complaining about noise. Those tunnels help keep the noise inside the park. I thought the tunnels added a lot to the ride itself. For a layout like this, it added a nice change of pace, visually. It's a minor thing, but it looks good from the outside, it rides good from the inside, and just the cherry on top, it also does what it's supposed to do and keeps the screams away from people who don't want to hear it. Okay, now that we got the good stuff out of the way, let's talk about the stuff to hate. It really bothers me when a ride needs to warm up to the point where it's not good in the morning. I know, every ride warms up and gets better as the day goes along, but certain rides are just not good in the morning. Iron Gwazi was like this, and so is BALDER. Given its size and length, it naturally starts to lose steam at the end. When we rode it right after it opened in the morning, about 2/3 of the way in, I was concerned we may not make it back to the station. It absolutely died. The last 4 airtime hills had absolutely no force, and it made me think we should just ditch it and come back later. It's just not worth riding in the morning. Wait for the afternoon when it's been running for a few hours and you can get a full train. If you only have the chance to ride it in the morning, I'm sorry. Please don't try and judge it based on how it runs early on. One other thing to hate, and this is the one that everyone expects. That layout is very repetitive. As Pontus said, they wanted as much airtime as possible, and Intamin really took that to heart. This is basically 1 or 2 airtime hills, followed by U-turns. It starts high and just keeps winding its way down. 3 laps, each one getting lower than the last, trying to salvage enough speed to get the ride some force and make it back to the station. All these airtime hills are a bit different. That first one after the first drop is very good in all rows. That second one is weird because in the back, you get airtime going up, then you land as you crest the hill, and then you fly on the way down. Very weird, but I'll take it. Then you turn around, get 2 more hills, turn again, get 1 hill, turn around again. Then you got these 2 small ones, and those are pretty good. Then you got 2 more. That last one has a bit of a twist in the back row. Aside from the first drop, this is the only one that isn't a pure straight airtime hill. I'm not complaining. I do love pure airtime hills, but this is a lot of the same, and those turns are long and slow. I love a good dynamic layout. That's why I prefer B&M hypers like Raging Bull and Diamondback over hypers like Intimidator and Behemoth. Balder's layout is a lot of things, but dynamic is not one of them. Before I rank this up, I was faced with a bit of a dilemma. When I rode the Voyage at night without trims, it was one of the greatest experiences of all time. But do I rank the Voyage on this one special ride, or do I rank it based on how it normally runs? That was a tough call, and in the end, I gave it some extra points but didn't base my ranking on that. I had a similar situation with Balder. During ERT, we were able to ride with a little bit more room than we normally would have during the day. Let's just put it that way. This is also when I parked myself in row A and got about 7 laps in a row without getting up, and it was one of the best times I've ever had on any coaster ever. Those rides in that situation would make this a top 10 coaster easy, but my other 15 rides made it clear, this really isn't a top 10 coaster. That being said, even with normal lap bars, those rides in row A would have been amazing. I really think that's the magic row. That gives me confidence putting this in my top 50. So, once again, the moment of truth. Where exactly does this land in my top 50? I compare this to 2 wooden coasters that currently sit in my low 30s. Phoenix at Knoebels and Zippin' Pippin at Bay Beach. I think Balder is a very good comp for these. They're all one-dimensional airtime machines. I think Phoenix does it the best out of these 3. The airtime isn't very strong, but with those buzz bars, and the way it runs so smooth, and that great finale, this is better than Balder. As for Zippin' Pippin, it has all that good floater before the ejector death hill, but I think Balder as a whole gets the edge. I wedged Balder between these 2 woodies, and it's currently ranked as my number 36 overall coaster. I didn't go in with very high expectations. I knew it wasn't going to be El Toro. All I wanted was the airtime to be real, and that was absolutely the case. Sure, I wish it ran faster. I wish it kept its speed better at the end. I wish it was a good ride in the morning as well as at night, but that's not the case, and that's why it's not my top 20. Still, it's good enough to be a solid top 40 coaster, and it's easily the second best ride at Liseberg, 8 spots behind Helix. Also of note, I got 22 rides total, 5 on the first day, and then 17 on the second day. If you saw my Air Force 1 vlog, I worked hard to ride that 17 times to set an all-time personal single-day record, and I kind of accidentally tied that record on Balder. It's a lot easier when you get ERT and don't have to leave the train, so maybe it's kinda cheap, but I guess now I have a co-champion for most rides in one day. If you've ridden Balder, let me know what you think in the comments below. Were you impressed? Disappointed? Did you go in with too high or too low expectations? And how did that affect your opinion of the ride? If you haven't ridden this, is this on your bucket list? Or is this type of ride not your cup of tea? If you love intensity and aren't exactly an airtime junkie, I can see where you would ride this a couple times and then go up the escalator to Marathon Helix. I think this is a nice compliment to Helix, and in the end, it gives Liseberg 2 coasters in my top 50. There are 9 other parks that can make that claim, and Liseberg is the only European park to do it. Before you go, don't forget to drop a like, and if you're new here and want to see more content like this, please give me a sub. I have a playlist with other coaster reviews, and a vlog showcasing my 2 days at Liseberg. Also, check out my links below for my Discord server, and my second channel where I post copyright-free off-ride footage, and my baseball channel if you also love baseball like I do. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.